California and the state of California is now introducing this new bill. It will basically kill open source AI in California.
Someone high above said, it takes so many hours for so many people to fill all these fields. If we just get rid of one field, we can reduce the staff. What facilitates the adoption of AI, and or conversely, what hinders the adoption of AI in enterprises that you've dealt with?
42% of the startups that fail in the first 2 years, they fail because we will reach the level of AI where you can have a fairly senior level employee that is, I hate to say it, but replaced with AI.
I think there's something to fear about from AI currently.
Yeah, absolutely. There is.
We always hear about AI and how AI is changing the world around. But how is AI implemented and how is it impacting enterprises? For that, we have our guest today who has run a startup for the last 2 years in Dubai, and he's helping businesses supercharge their businesses using the help of AI. Khalifa Manaa, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here and looking forward to the chat.
Awesome. Khalifa, I know you are here in Dubai, but you were originally from Finland. Could you give us a brief background about your journey from Finland to Dubai?
Sure. So I was born and raised in Finland. Dad is from Tunisia. That's where my name comes from. And I've been working for the past maybe 15 years in product design, product development, technology in broad. I did a run at the enterprise for almost 2 years. Then I did consulting for a few years. Then I launched a company in Finland that expanded here to Dubai. That's how I ended up here. And for the past 3-4 years, I've been doing consulting with early stage venture funds, basically institutions that invest money in early stage startups, and they hired me to kind of increase the odds of success with the companies that they invested in. And a few years back, what ended up happening is that almost on every project, the way to improve the products was data science, machine learning, applied AI. So then I was like, okay, this is everywhere. This is the future. Let's focus on this because it can really dramatically increase kind of the customer experience and business fundamentals overall. So yeah, that's how I ended up from Finland to Dubai.
So Khalifa, why did you choose Dubai? Why from all the way from Finland to Dubai?
That's a good question. My style, it wasn't like I did research, where should I go? Life took me here. And I really enjoyed Dubai. I met my current wife here.
Oh, wow.
that was a big factor of the decision. And yeah, life took me here. I really enjoyed it. There's, of course, so many good things about Dubai. Right now, it's becoming this place of tolerance. It's becoming a central hub of technology, especially AI. Right now, there's 3 hubs of AI. There's the US, there's China, and then there's UAE. And I definitely don't want to live in the US. Not sure I want to live long in China. I've stayed there 6 months.
Oh, really?
Earlier on. Yeah, I really actually, China is a fairly cool place, but if I choose where I live out of these 3, it's a no-brainer. UAE is really cool.
I'm born in Dubai, and I would completely agree with you. I've lived in Canada. I've visited a lot of countries in Europe, and definitely, the things you're talking about, tolerance and development, and the leadership, the vision that they have is unparalleled compared to any other country. So absolutely.
Yeah, I actually had sorry to interrupt, but I had a conversation with a friend because. And I've had a lot of these conversations now where they live somewhere in Europe or in the US and they're looking to move to UAE. And this specific friend, he told me that he's exiting his business. So he's kind of financially independent, doesn't have to work anymore. And now he was kind of in the situation where he's actually reviewing different countries. Where do I want to settle in? And he said that Finland, he was like, I have no idea what's the vision of the country. And then when you look at the UAE, UAE actually has a very clear vision for 2031, 2041, and 2070. And he said that it's just builds confidence on the ability of the leadership to take this country to a place where you want to stay for long term when
Yes.
they've actually communicated what's the vision.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of opportunities, do you think that, compared to the West, do we have sufficient opportunities in Dubai, or do you feel like Dubai is getting saturated? Perhaps, Saudi is a better place for people who are seeking jobs or who are seeking to set up new businesses in the field of AI.
Yeah, it is definitely still UAE.
Okay.
Of course, as a market, Saudi is much bigger,
Yeah.
and it's often what I see is companies they launch in the UAE for a lot of reasons. This is the hub of talent.
It's the hub of
It is
talent.
still kind of challenging to try to recruit world class talent to Saudi. It still has a little bit of that branding issue. Whereas
Yeah.
if you tell them that hey, we're in Dubai, people they love to come here because it's a really cool place
Yes.
and the lifestyle Dubai can offer is like unparalleled on the whole planet.
Yes.
So
Yes.
because of just the talent situation, I would say UA is definitely the place to come. But then what you want to do is once you've established here, expand operations to Saudi because it is
Yes.
a bigger market, much bigger market, and much more appealing
Yeah.
market in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so that yeah, I would definitely say it is still UA.
And in terms of UAE, do you think entrepreneurship is easy or it's quite challenging in terms of setting up the
Um,
business, in terms of getting clients, in terms of running the shop, everything?
so Elon Musk once said that when he was asked what is it like to start a new company, and I think
Yeah.
he's spot on. He said it's like you're sitting down staring into the emptiness while
The
eating
abyss.
pieces of
Yeah.
broken glass. I
Oh
think it's
my
fairly
God.
so
Pretty
starting a
graphic.
business is it's never
Yeah.
easy, but
Yes.
UAE I think is a fairly easy place to set up,
Yes.
especially right now in AI. UAE is super supportive, and
Yes.
they're kind
They
of
have
the
a minister
regulations
of
they're doing.
AI. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And just to give you an idea, for example, I don't know if you read, but California, the state of California, is now introducing this new bill. Um, it will basically kill open source AI in California. It's
Oh
a
my
bill
God.
where basically any large models, they have specific what is large enough. Firstly, it has to have a kill switch, which on an open source LLM, I'm not sure how you would ever technically even
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
Secondly, it has to be it can't be hazardous. And then it is that if you build a model and then someone else takes it, fine tunes it, and
Mm.
applies it in a way that becomes hazardous, you're liable because you created the model.
Oh. Oh
It's
my
insane.
God.
It's insane, and it's there's a lot of Twitter is talking about this a lot, where a lot of
Yeah.
AI talent in California they're like, okay, do we go to
Yeah.
Texas? Do we go to UAE? Where do we go? So the government here, as they did with crypto, they're doing now with AI. They're really smart. It's just a great example of how regulation done by people who don't understand technology at all can be
Yes.
really
Yes.
harmful. And UAE, honestly, I have to um, give
Compliment
them
them.
credit. Yeah,
Yeah,
they've really
exactly.
done a good job. And the way they approach this is like initially we'll stay out of the way until we understand
Yes.
how to do it the way that it doesn't kind of kill innovation.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I remember in the government summit they had brought Sam Altman, and they said we're going to make a sandbox. We were going to play with the AI, understand it first, and then try to make some regulations around it. I think that's a much better approach rather than just sitting outside and especially those guys who don't even understand AI. They are making regulations, and just because at the end of the day, it all comes down to politics and power. And I feel like even in the AI, this is a big problem. The big players are all trying to secure AI only for themselves. And even
Yeah.
though we hear a lot about democratizing AI, and have you heard Andrew Ng in his recent video? He said like in the earlier days, literacy was only towards the priest and priestess because only they would be able to read the Bible and the masses would not. And then later on, they were taught how to read and write. And he said now it's with AI. Only the
Yeah.
priests and priestesses have the AI and the masses do not. So we need to move from that and democratize AI. But yeah, but regulations like this, it's going to make it really hard. Coming to the point of AI, I know you work a lot with enterprises. So, what do you think makes it, what facilitates the adoption of AI, and or conversely, what hinders the adoption of AI in enterprises that you've dealt with?
So honestly, I would say that right now we're recording this on end of May 2024.
End of May,
I would
yeah.
say that almost any enterprise either has an AI strategy in place or they're
Mm.
creating one now. There are
Really?
yes, yes,
Wow.
and but by the way, by enterprise I mean like an enterprise that is not a small or
Yes.
medium-sized company, but any large company will have an AI strategy. If they don't, then and you're listening to this, then you're really falling behind.
Yes.
You need to catch up.
Exactly.
AI is changing everything, and it of course when we're talking about AI, we're not talking about adding ChatGPT to your website. We're talking about data science. We're talking about machine learning. In some cases, we are actually talking about using large language models and these
Yes.
kind of capabilities. But it just fundamentally, when you incorporate AI in, you can give a better experience to your customers, whether they are consumers or whether they're businesses or governments, whoever you're serving, you will be able to do that better.
Mm.
And on the other hand, there's so many manual processes we do that you can super easily automate these days with AI. It will
Yes.
just, again, it will make the experience better, but then it will also save time. I'll give you an example. We were working with a client where, and this is not even such a large company, but medium-sized company, um, and they had have a process where they spent 6 to 8 months of manpower every year
Mm. Mm.
copy pasting
Manually
from
copy
different doc.
pasting.
And
Yeah.
you can imagine these people when we did a series of workshops to identify these kind of, I'm not sure if this is the right term, but donkey work that people do that we can eliminate. And these people, they hated doing that. Imagine
Oh,
sitting down on a computer for six
yes.
hours, copy pasting something from one Excel to another Excel, and it's super annoying. And you feel
Yes.
like, what am I
Yes.
doing here? You know.
Yes. Exactly.
Plus, it cost the company a lot of money, and because of this, it took this company 2 to 3 weeks to be able to make proposals, create costs for their
Wow.
clients. And now we're automating it fully. So now, when they get a request from their client, they're able to send the proposal in like 20, 30 minutes.
Yes.
Now the customers are
Yes.
like, wow, we love this. So we're still building this, but
Yeah.
like I'm fairly confident that they will win a lot more business just because they're able to do it faster and without errors. So um, your question was, what was your question?
What what facilitates the AI adoption? What hinders the AI adoption? Right.
Yeah. So what facilitates it
So pain
is,
points for sure, like you said, somebody has a pain point. This would facilitate their adoption, right?
yeah,
Let's
uh,
talk about what would hinder it.
yeah, and to add to that, like who are most likely to leverage AI? They're the companies
Yes.
that are challengers right now. So
Mm.
it is someone who is number 3 or 4 in the market. They want to become the leaders. They're
Yes.
aggressively looking, how do we leap
Yes.
forward? Um, so that's something that is kind of fueling. And also, I feel like right now, even like the senior leadership boards, they're looking at, okay, everybody's talking about the AI. What does it mean for us, and how can we,
Yes.
what should we do with it? So this usually is a kickstart of them starting to look, okay, what's our AI strategy? How can this be useful for us?
Yeah.
Now, I believe you won't be surprised to hear this when what's hindering is, well, data is one. There's a lot of
Yes.
cases where
Exactly.
companies, they could be that they have data, but it's just they're saving the wrong things. It's not
Yes. Yes.
rich. It's not valuable, or it's
Yes.
just you have to start with 6 or 8 months of data engineering to kind of clean up the data and make some use of it. Um, That's one. And then the other thing I'm seeing, especially in certain industries, is kind of a mindset issue.
Mm.
Um, I'm seeing this especially in retail, which is crazy because retail has so many opportunities with AI.
Yes, yes,
But
yes,
a lot of the senior leadership, especially in kind of the mid market, not the largest companies, but the mid market, is a little bit like, let the next guy handle this. Like, we worked like this for 30 years. It's working. We're still making money. Let's just keep doing what we're doing. And,
yeah,
when it's time for me to retire, let the next generation take care of this.
yeah.
So that's something I'm seeing in
I
the
think
mid
it's
market,
like
definitely.
they think like, first of all, we're already making lots of money, and if it's not broken, why fix it?
Yeah.
So what they don't realize is
Surprisingly
that
enough,
they're not future ready for it. Yeah.
yeah. What is quite surprising is that something that you might think that might hinder is data privacy or
Yes.
regulation. Maybe in some industries, maybe in healthcare, that might be an issue. But honestly, I don't. That it doesn't really, because in enterprise you can use, you
Yes.
can self-host a small open source model,
Yes.
keep everything private.
On
So
premises. Yes. Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that's not
I don't
that's
think, yeah,
been a surprise
exactly.
for me.
That's not the
Yeah,
main reason. Yes, they just bring up these excuses, but mostly it's change management. They don't want to change their status quo. Yeah.
yeah, exactly,
And you spoke about data, and interestingly, I was having this conversation with a friend yesterday, and he told me in his company, they would track sales, and they had like 6, 7 fields that they had to fill. So product, which category, subcategory, industry, all that stuff. And someone high above said, it takes so many hours for so many people to fill all these fields. If we just get rid of one field, we can reduce the staff. So they removed one
yeah.
field, took it up one level. Everything got aggregated on a category level, and now they want to use AI, but they don't have the granularity anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow,
So
talking about disastrous decisions.
exactly, exactly. So many people they want to leverage AI, but what they don't understand is that garbage in, garbage out. If you don't have the
Yeah.
good data enough, no matter what model you bring, it's not going to do wonders. But speaking about data, and we know that AI, many of the AI models, they need label data set, right? But I think generative AI has changed a lot of that, right? What do
Yeah.
you think like generative AI has done to this whole AI landscape?
Well, a lot, a lot.
A lot,
Uh,
exactly. It's put it
it,
on the map.
One, of course, the big difference is that there's a lot of use cases where you actually don't need data, and
Yes.
you can kind of make big impact with generative AI. Something that I'm personally maybe most excited about is this notion of AI based UI.
Mm,
So there's a lot of, like, most enterprise software is like really bad, like
bad.
really really bad. Like
Yes, yes.
the
Like when in the
usability,
60s. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Usability is garbage, and even like if you look at something like Google Analytics, it's quite difficult to actually use Google
Yes.
Analytics and get to get value out of it, other than just seeing that, okay, I had this many visitors from this country and this many visitors from this country and so on. So what I'm really excited about is kind of using generative AI and natural language, of course,
Yes.
as a means of communicating to a system, to software, what you want it to do and how do you want it to do it. So,
Yeah.
for example, talking with Google Analytics might be like, um, where do I lose most of my customers before they reach the
Yes.
checkout? And
Yes.
then it could be that Google Analytics says that, oh, listen, you're not tagging these events, so I cannot do that now. Do you want me to
Yes.
add those tags that later on you could do it? Yes, please.
Yes.
And these kind of things. I'm
Yes.
right now working um, uh, with a government entity on a project, and they've had this situation where their users are not tech savvy at all, and they've built quite a few apps and tried to kind of get them to use technology in their
Hmm.
day to day. And what
Hmm.
happens every time? They just simply they go back to WhatsApp. So they don't use the system, they don't use the app, they
Yes.
go back to WhatsApp. Now with AI, you can be like, let's just let them use WhatsApp. Whatever
Yes.
you want to say, you text it, you send a voice note, and then you can use AI as a communication layer to take that, break it into pieces, and send function
Yes.
calls to wherever systems you need to do.
Yes.
So that's kind of one of the areas where I really am excited about generative AI. It's just the UI layer. Also, something that is not definitely here yet, but something that is coming, I believe, is generative UI, like graphical UI that
Mm.
is adaptive to whatever you're doing, kind of allowing, in a way, AI to create the UI on the fly based on
Yeah.
whatever you're looking to transact with.
Yeah.
I think we're maybe a few years away from this, but yeah, when it comes to generative AI, that's the domain that I'm most like
Yes.
interested in. What can it do to user experience?
Yes, exactly. No, generative AI, definitely, I agree with you. It has put, before that, not many people were talking about AI. We
Yeah.
were, in fact, calling it data science and machine learning. This term AI got famous after generative AI and OpenAI launched ChatGPT, and it went, I think it's the fastest to reach a million users, right? So there's a lot of stats floating around, but the gist of it is like most startups, like 70% of startups fail within the first few years. So I want to, since you have dealt a lot with startups and venture capitals, what is your take on this? Why do startups fail a lot?
Okay. Well, statistically, 42% of the startups that fail in the first 2 years, they fail because there was no need in the market. And
Oh wow.
this perfectly aligns with my experience as well. Like I've worked with uh, more than 400 startups, and the number one issue, like the thing that you can see that this startup will fail from the get-go, is that they're trying to sell something that people don't want.
Don't
That's the
want.
that's the best, by the way, best advice, best business advice I've ever heard in my life is simply sell something that people want.
It
If
reminds me of your tagline on LinkedIn. Life is too short to build stuff that nobody wants, or something like that.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And where this, like, of course, this sounds like a no-brainer. Like, how could anyone be
Yes.
dumb enough to do that? But it happens so easily. And
Yes.
what happens is you start with an idea of a solution,
Idea. Yeah.
and these startups tend to fail almost every time.
Mm.
If you come, if the starting point is, oh, I have an idea of a really cool product, then what happens is you fall in love with the idea, and then you try
Yes.
to figure out, well, who could use this, and you're doing everything upside down. Whereas most of the successful startups I've seen, they start with a problem, a
Yes.
challenge. People
Yes.
want this, but it's not available, or like everybody's using Slack, but
Yeah.
it's not great because of X, Y, and Z. And that
Mm.
is a real opportunity. So whenever
Mm.
you notice something in your own life that is annoying, or something that you want to do but it's difficult, that gives you an opportunity to build a successful business.
Yeah.
Um,
But
other reasons are,
even with good ideas, even with solutions to problems, like I was reading about Nvidia, and when they had started off, they had a very good idea, and there was a need for GPUs and stuff, but they started and they just failed miserably. Then they had to start off again, and then so I feel like there's always some obstacles in the beginning, right?
yeah, and there's a lot of them. Like one common thing that actually happens is inside the founding team, you get conflicts, and then it ends up
Mm.
in a divorce. Like a
Okay.
non-functional relationship easily kills a business. And then sometimes
Okay.
it's just execution. Like if you're doing something
Mm.
for the first time, it's it's not that easy to build a good product. So you might then get derailed and uh, build the wrong thing, or you build the, in a way, the right thing but in the wrong way.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just that even though you have a great idea, you cannot convince investors, so you struggle raising funding. And without funding, building a company is possible, but much more difficult.
Oh man.
But honestly, the most common ones are related to the fact that you're building the wrong thing. Um, it's much more rare to see a startup
Okay.
fail because technology was too difficult or it wasn't possible. This happens, but
Yeah.
it's very rare.
So that makes a lot of sense, Khalifa. I want to also talk about what is the future of AI. We started off with traditional AI, machine learning, and then we went into deep learning, now generative AI. There's a lot of talk about AI agents that can independently do stuff. You leave them and then you come back and they've done some work. What do you think is the future of AI?
Um, well, obviously, at some point we'll reach like a very general type of AI that will be strong in a very wide um, range of topics and can do proper reasoning and so on. AGI, basically.
Yeah. So
Um,
could you
I
could you
think
just
what we'll
explain
see,
what is your understanding of AGI before we continue?
yeah, okay, that's really good. So I'm not talking about something that is sentient, something that is
Mhm.
like a Terminator type. Hey, I'm an
Yeah.
AI,
Yeah.
you're human, let me destroy you. Uh, for me, AGI means someone that is on par with humans in terms of being able to handle a wide range of tasks.
Yes.
And
Yes.
when I frame it this way, it's not crazy to say that we're actually not that far away. Like,
Not that
I
far away.
seriously
Yes.
think that potentially next year we will have AGI. And what I mean with this is not like right now we have agents that can do very low level or narrow tasks independently. Like you can
Independently.
build an agent that does research for you and that passes that work to another agent that turns that into something else and blah 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 blah. But I think kind of we will reach the level of AI where you can have a fairly senior level employee that is well, I hate to say it, but replaced with AI. So basically,
Okay.
for example, your CMO, your chief marketing officer, could
Oh, wow.
potentially be AI. And what this requires, of course, is understanding of how to build a strategy and how to adapt to
Yes.
different situations and so on. And this is definitely something that the capabilities today are not there. We just don't have reasoning strong enough, but I think we
Yes.
will. Um, yeah, so I see, and it's very easy to also see that these will become very helpful assistants. Like
Yes.
when an AI knows enough about me, um, for example, one use case that I'm actually thinking of building, it's kind of
Mm.
difficult because it requires a network effect, but some like I would want to have an AI that meets with your AI and 100 other people's AI that represents them, and basically
Yeah.
let them together see my AI knows what I'm looking for and what people in my network are looking for, and what are the how can I help other people and companies. Your AI knows what you need. Let them meet and see if there's synergies, and then only
Yes.
notify me if there's something where we should collaborating together. I think that could be a time
Yeah.
saver, and
Interesting.
I actually think this is something we could already build.
Yeah.
But when these reasoning capabilities become even better, these type of assistants will be very useful. So that's kind of what I see in the next 2 3 years happening. Um, when we think about in a much longer term, let's say 10, 15 years, 20 years, then of course our society will change dramatically. This is not something people often want to hear, but a lot of the jobs
Yeah.
that we have today will simply, like, machines
Yes.
will be much better at doing those
Yes.
tasks. Anything that requires driving, which is what 2 billion people, customer
Yeah.
service is much. AI will be much better. A lot of the jobs. So our society will need to reinvent itself and figure out what
Yes.
how do we spend our day and how do we pay rent. And that's such a rabbit hole that maybe I don't want to get
It
into
is.
it. But that's
Exactly.
kind of what I see in the long term.
Yeah, and then that the use case you talked about, your AI agent, it reminds me of NVIDIA. They had created a whole digital twin. So digital twin is basically a
Yeah.
whole digital representation of the actual physical thing. So they made a digital twin of Earth, where they can test out, what happens when solar flares happen, when earthquakes happen, stuff like that. And I've heard a similar concept where somebody has created a digital twin of actual people like me and you. So they would put digital twins in the in the environment, and they wanted to test, for example, A/B testing. They wanted to see, if we open a new Starbucks, will Adnan go to the Starbucks or will Khalifa go to the Starbucks? So instead of testing it on us, they put it on the digital twin, and then they saw, okay, both of them went, and then they drank this specific kind of coffees and stuff like that. So
That's
absolutely, I
really
mean, this,
cool.
yeah, it's really cool, and I think it's pretty doable with the technology we have right now, and I'm sure that some people on some level are actually doing it. Which also brings us,
Yeah.
you spoke about some things about jobs and stuff like that. At the current state, do you think? And there's a lot of different opinions, right? Even like some people say that, I think it's Meta, you Lon, that he said that, if we created the AI, we control it. There's nothing to fear about. What's your take on this? Do you think there's something to fear about from AI currently?
Yeah, absolutely. There is, of course.
There is,
Not with the technology we have today, of course. No,
but the
like
yeah, unfair use, yeah.
ChatGPT will not overcome us, but in the long term, absolutely. Um,
Mm,
like that Terminator thing, like in AI becoming sentient, some way I think it's even inevitable. It
wow.
will happen. What's the time range? I
Yeah.
think because the way we're building this, we are kind of guiding them towards that. And energy will be a constraint. These models will be
Yes.
quite big. They need a lot of energy. And then there is the question that um, when an AI becomes smarter than us, what will they do? I
Yes.
don't. Again, I don't want to go into sci-fi stuff, but
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
personally I believe that
So,
it will happen. 100% it will happen. They will become self-aware and conscious, and then um, yeah, then remember that guy who in Boston Dynamics videos always kicks the dog?
yes. Yes.
I don't. I wouldn't want to be that guy.
Exactly.
I'm
Especially when the
joking, of
dog
course.
starts thinking. Yeah. One thing that,
Yeah, exactly.
currently that bothers me a lot is, in recommendation engines, right? When
Yeah,
Amazon and Netflix, they make profiles of you. For example, I'm a guy who wants to quit smoking, but every time I see a cigarette, I'm tempted. And now the profile that they've created for me is that this guy is a smoker, and let's always sell cigarettes to him. But for me
yeah,
personally, I want to move away from that personality to a better personality where someone does not want to smoke, right? And it's very hard for me to keep changing the profile. So whenever I would see a cigarette ad, I will go and say, please show me less of these, please show me less of these, please show me less of these. And then after several iterations, it'll start catering to my requirements. So I do feel that, somehow AI also learns things from you, from your current state. Of course, it does not know what your intentions are, what you want to be as a future state, and it hinders your improvements and your struggles with your life. For example, somebody's obese, they want to lose weight, and they keep seeing ads of fast food and pizza and stuff like that. So I feel like, okay, there is, because I've lost control over these ads and these, the profiles that they've created for me, right? I feel like there should be some kind of control given back to me, where I turn these knobs and say, okay, you know what? Right now I am obese, but stop showing me these ads. Stop showing me, what to do, and meeting other people who are obese and stuff like that. So I feel like, yes. So in this way, there is this monopoly of these technology companies who have your data, and they can use it and misuse it in ways that they want, just to maximize their profits. So I feel like, coming back to the ethical AI. So we have to make some sort of balance, that it should not be all about numbers. It should also be about ethics. Is this really doing benefit to society or not? And then that brings to me on my last question. We have a lot of apprehension about AI, especially from every age group. Students, I gave a speech at Adman University, and then after the speech ended, there was a huge lineup of students, and they all were curious. It felt like a light bulb moment, and they felt like maybe what we've studied for the last 4 years is not relevant anymore. Maybe AI can do all of that and better. So, what is your advice for students and for mid career professionals who are feeling very apprehensive about AI?
So, firstly, it's very difficult right now to try to forecast what the future looks like.
Yes,
Even
absolutely.
even in like venture capital right now, these guys are they're really struggling to figure out where should we invest in, because the companies where they, like, for example, a year ago, a number of companies raised billions to build foundational models. And now what we're seeing is that that's going to be a commodity. It already is to some extent commodity.
Mm,
And it's very difficult to monetize that. So
yes.
even what I mean is, even for industry experts who are trying to kind of forecast, it's very difficult to see what's going to happen in the next few years.
Yeah.
So um, what we
Students.
although what we know for
Yeah.
sure for students is, like, don't become a taxi driver. That job will be taken away. um, and I would say that right now, even if the AI wave was not coming, I believe we today live in a society where it's possible for you to reinvent yourself every 5 years. So,
Yes.
like, even if you study computer science right now, it could be that 5 or 10 years later, you're like, actually, what I want to do is I want to become a teacher, and then you study that and
Yes.
you become a teacher. So that's kind
Yes.
of very easy to do. So, kind of, rather than trying to figure out what's a job that I could still have 20 years from now, I would say that make yourself very useful right now, and
Mm,
try to. AI gives so many opportunities. Like, it's never been easier to start a successful company than it is in today's time.
right now.
Technology is becoming
Yes.
very easy. It's easy to build products. And this technology allows us to solve a lot of problems people have that were not solvable 10 years ago,
Yes.
5 years ago.
Yes.
So, um, honestly, if I had a cousin who's now 19, graduated from college, I would say start a company. And by the way, this is what I told my own brother, half brother.
Okay.
He's now 19. What I told him, like, don't worry about what's your career. Start the company right now. The first one might fail. The second one will succeed. Make enough money that you don't have to think about money anymore. So then whatever happens, you're kind of okay.
Happens. Yeah, exactly.
So honestly, that's the best advice I could say. Find
Yes.
something that people want, sell them that, make enough money so that 10 years later you don't need a job, because
Yes.
it might be difficult to find one.
Exactly. And I do agree. I was reading Gartner's report, and they were predicting that most of the jobs that will go away are coders and developers and stuff like that. So what that means is that, there's always a requirement for high level people who are still trying to find, like you said, problems to solve rather than taking a solution and finding problems. So, and
Yeah,
like you said, if I want right now, I can go on ChatGPT and present a problem. It's going to write up a code. It's going to give me some system design, and it's going to make my life much easier. Previously, I would have to go and hire five specialists for this. And even I remember once I was giving an interview for Facebook, and they had such hard coding challenges and algorithms and stuff like that. Now I can just go into ChatGPT, and it's going to give me all of those codings and algorithms, and there's no point in memorizing all that information anymore. So I think, like you said, we there are still lots of problems, and there'll always be problems to solve. So we'll have to become
yeah,
that mindset that we have to find out problems to solve, and technology is now extremely accessible. Okay, and then
yeah,
my second part of the question was people who are mid in their career, right? For them, transitioning might not be that easy. They have a lot of liabilities and mouths to feed and stuff like that. So, what would your advice be to them, especially if they're in an industry that is threatened by AI? Let's say there's a coder and he's worked for the last 20 years as a coder, and now there's a very possible chance that an AI model is introduced that writes the code for him, and then there's just one supervisor required to just debug the code. So what would your advice to be for such people?
so I would say, I hope this doesn't sound like I'm some kind of a heartless person, but kind of, what number one is that face the facts. You won't be driving
Yes,
that taxi 20 years from now. You will not
yes,
most likely be doing coding 20 years from now. Most likely, even 5 years from now, you won't be doing coding.
yes,
So approach it as an opportunity to reinvent yourself. Think about, and I understand, like, if you have a family and kind
Yes.
of liabilities, you cannot just go and become an entrepreneur. I'm not saying that. But imagine now is an opportunity to think about what is it that you're good at? What is it that you could provide to a company or an employer or anyone? And just start making that change. And I would start
Yeah.
doing that transition right now. You can, as you have your day job, you can start learning what would be your next thing. YouTube, there's even like MIT gives away free courses,
Yes.
Harvard gives away free courses. So
Yes.
kind of
Yes.
the it's there. Just block 1 hour per day on first the first 5 hours are for reinventing what do you want to become, and then systematically 1 hour per day work towards that goal and make it happen. Um,
Yeah.
it might be that even where what you're transitioning to is not where you end up spending the rest of your life. You do that for a few years, but once you've done this transformation once, it's easier for you to do it again.
Easiest for you.
And by the
Absolutely.
way, I know this. When I was early in my career, I worked 10 years in the telco, doing product management, and I was looking after the offering and so on. And I noticed
Okay.
something happening. Whenever I had a bad day, I started to look at jobs at other telcos because
Okay.
I started to believe that
Yes.
I started to believe
Yeah.
that this is what I'm a telco guy, and
Yeah.
it was super scary to leave that world. So I understand how difficult it feels, especially when you have like a family and mouths to feed.
Yes.
So that's why I kind of start on the side now and start working towards it because the end will
Yeah.
come, and you don't want to be unprepared when that day comes.
Absolutely. And a few years from now, when social media came, nobody would have thought that, somewhere in some village, a person can become a millionaire overnight. So a lot of
Yeah,
opportunities came when social media came. I know personally, like in my country, Pakistan, there were so many villages who were just making videos upon videos, and now they are millionaires. So, we're
yeah,
living in a time where there's a lot of opportunities. People are using Truelancer, Fiverr.com, and sitting in remote places and working remotely. So there's always opportunity. It needs you to leave your comfort zone and reinvent yourself, like you said. And then also, like I was speaking to a guy, you spoke about telco. I also originally was from the telco background. I have some colleagues who are still stuck in there. And I say stuck because the opportunities are quite limited. There are only a few telco companies, and it's very hard to switch between them. And they're very locked down on vendors. So if you've worked on one vendor, they don't want you to move to another, or the other one will not accept you. So I was telling him, okay, have you used ChatGPT? Go into ChatGPT, put in your profile, put in all your soft skills, hard skills, and say, what are other careers I can transition into? It's become so much easier
yeah,
now. It's going to tell you with
yeah.
percentage, you can also become a data analyst because you've done work like this before. But we need to change this
That's actually a
mindset that,
really good
okay,
idea.
yeah.
That's actually, your advice is much better than mine. So do that. Go to ChatGPT, tell it that
Yes,
you're a recruiting specialist. This is me. Give it your
exactly.
CV. Tell it your experience. Tell it what you like, what you don't like, and
Yes,
ask it to come up with opportunities for you. That's a really good
yes.
idea.
And that's because I was speaking to one guy once, and I was personally like an introvert. I never like speaking a lot and giving public speaks and stuff like that. I was speaking to a person, and then 10 minutes turned into 30 minutes into 1 hour, and then at the end of 1 hour he's like, you should become a career coach, or you should become a life coach, because you speak about things so nicely and you relate it to stuff that's so important. And hadn't he pointed that out, I would have never realized that I have skills in this, industry as well, or I have these kind of skills as well.
Yeah,
So I'm sure everybody is skilled on a lot of levels. They just need to rediscover
yeah,
themselves, leave their comfort zone. The initial, like you said, it's going to be like eating glass, but they'll for sure. I always give the example of cars, right? When cars came, I'm sure lots of horse riders and carriage riders went out of jobs, but then so many new jobs got created, right? Mechanics and
yes,
automotive engineers, and then gas pumps and roads and everything. So many new jobs got created. I'm pretty sure that with AI, like you said, the donkey work might be automated and stuff, but there'll still be a lot of. I think recently in Dubai, they had announced that they're going to launch a program that will train 100,000 people on prompt engineering. So, prompt engineering was
yeah,
a profession that was never there before. But with generative AI, this just came out. So I
Yeah,
guess, like,
exactly.
yeah, like you said, people need to rediscover themselves, make sure they're not riding horses when the cars arrive. They need to upgrade themselves as well. So thank you very much, Khalifa. Do you have any last parting words, words of advice? Not any negative words. We don't want to scare our guests any further.
No, I would say like we live in really in an era
Challenging
of
times.
a lot of opportunities.
Yes,
So embrace it, find your place in the world, and yeah. To those of you listening, if initially we talked about enterprises who, if you don't know how you're going to use AI, then get in touch. We're happy to help. Uh, and Yeah, it's a brave new world. Let's
it is a
make the
brave
most
new
of it.
world. Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much, Khalifa. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much.